Howdy, folks. I'm King Koopa the Bowser.
I'm Amber.
And here's some Reddit. Some Goombas. Here's some Goombas. Alright, folks. Our very first squishy story is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Letting Our Daughter Move Back Home? My husband and I have 3 children, a 25-year-old female, a 16-year-old male, and a 13-year-old female. Our oldest moved out 3 years ago when her boyfriend got an apartment. They were together for 4 years before that, so it wasn't like she ran off with some guy that she just met. We supported her decision, and she was old enough and was working full time. The issue is rent. In our area, it has more than doubled on average since. Their landlord raised rent 40% in the span of 3 months, and they couldn't afford to stay there anymore. The issue is that they weren't exactly swimming in cash before that. They don't really have enough for the first, last, and security with the market. Not that there's much here anyways, that's in their price range. Their plan was to move in with her boyfriend's parents for the first few months while they figured stuff out and saved up. But they won't let her come with. So they proposed an idea. She would move back in with us, him with his parents, and they'd save up and be gone in 6 months tops. The issue is that me and my husband don't feel that that's appropriate. She's an adult now, and she needs to learn to take care of herself, not relying on handouts from her parents. She offered to pay rent, but we would do that only if she agreed to pay the market average plus her share of utilities, which would mean that she couldn't save up like she wants to. Because we aren't doing that, she has been forced to share a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 people, some of who she says she finds sketchy. I feel for her, but I still think that it's her responsibility. At this point, she doesn't call much anymore, and I'm worried that this may have impacted our relationship. Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Yes, you're the jerk. And the first thing I want to point out here is it sounds like she may even be in a dangerous situation and you're not helping her. So I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. Like, she's not doing so well for herself. If she has to move in with 6 people,
In a 2-bedroom place and some of them are sketchy, like things could go really bad really quickly for your daughter.
yeah, I mean, I certainly think that there's a risk of physical harm to her, especially if it's with 6 strangers, and that just does not seem like a good situation.
And I also want to point out that it feels like, Opie's daughter has done basically everything quote unquote right.
Oh
She
yeah,
had a
yeah.
full-time job, she had, a partner that they have a stable relationship, they have a place, and just things have spiraled out of their control. They have no control over the rent prices. And this is kind of a problem for a lot of young people in general is salaries are low compared to cost of living. I feel like OP is kind of acting like, oh, well, she just needs to be more independent when actually it's not like she can like suddenly make her salary double or
Yeah, I mean, those are all good points, and the fact is that she has probably very little control about how much she earns. Usually salaries are pretty well fixed when you get employed, and then you can get small raises from there. So if she's not working in a high yield job, which it doesn't sound like she is, then it's going to be a really difficult thing for her to get her salary adjusted to the point where she can afford a 40% increase. And a lot of people are rent strapped to the point where rent takes up 50% of their income, and if that's the case for them to begin with, if rent was taking up like 50% of their income, and then their landlord raises it by 40%.
And so I feel like Opie's also kind of shooting herself in the foot if she wants her daughter to be independent because letting her save up now is going to give her more independence and stability down the line.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just force her into this situation where she's losing a lot of money on rent and all those other expenses, like it's going to be so much harder and she's going to struggle so much more.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that a parent can really do to help their child out is help them establish wealth early on because wealth grows exponentially. And if you come from a poverty situation, then you're going to have a lot less to work with, and you may not ever be able to actually allow your money to grow exponentially. Versus a situation where if your parents have been able to give you a lot of head starts, you're not going to be hampered by debt. You're not going to be hampered by, poor living situations. It can help actually make it so that you can take care of yourself in the long term in the future. It's their house, right? It's their rules.
Right, but I just feel like it's so cruel when you have the meat because it doesn't sound like, oh, she's a bad house guest or something like that. Like there's no griping about, oh, she, like she doesn't do anything around the house. She just throws away all her money on everything. It sounds like their only objection is just that she needs to pick herself up by her bootstraps. And that's what really irks me about this is they're willing to let their daughter be in a potentially physically harmful situation because she's not independent enough.
Well, and then on top of that, how much are they really charging her for rent? Is this what rent's going for a single room? Or are they charging her rent for the whole house? Because those could be really two different figures. How many roommates are we counting this as? Because if she's renting out a room with 5 other people, that would still be in the parents' house. You could consider that like a cost of how much she would have to pay for market rent. But it just sounds like they're actually just charging her what market rent is if she were renting a whatever room house, which I think is not necessarily a fair way of approaching it anyways. And she wasn't even asking to stay there for free.
Right, and she also has like a timeline in which to leave and everything. It sounds like she's really trying hard just to get back on her feet. And OP and her father are just kind of hampering her ability.
Yeah. Oh, and one last point. One last point I wanted to make. Households, I know there's this like big, you need to be independent, but households for a long time were multi-generational units, right?
Well, exactly. And the whole idea of independence is also largely like it's a false notion because so many people have a partner to help them or other family members. Like it's not like very many people are self-made and have no one to rely on. And that's also not necessarily a good thing to aspire to. Communities are really an important thing.
Yeah, I think that's well said. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Damn Good Owl says, "You're the jerk. Seriously, your daughter is an adult, but she will still be your daughter. She's not relying on handouts. She offered to pay rent. You're really going to charge her market average to live at home? She even gave you a timeline. I think you're kind of being unreasonable. You completely acknowledge that she was messed over, but yet you're willing to let her struggle when you presumably have space? There's wanting for her to learn to be an adult, and then there's just being an unreasonable jerk." Alright, folks, our next letter is titled, "Am I a jerk?" Oh, wait, it's not a jerk question. It's a relationship advice. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I made a date at home, and my 25-year-old male boyfriend complained about it the entire time. Hi, I'm a 25-year-old female, and I made a home movie theater for my 25-year-old male boyfriend, and he complained about everything. So this is a throwaway. Extra info. Recently, my Nana has been really sick, like cancer sick. And as much as I would like to be out in the world, I have to be astronomically careful because COVID and the flu would easily kill her at this point. Me and my boyfriend have been together for about 14 months at this point. My boyfriend wanted to go to the movies, and I said, let's do at-home movies. I made the movie tickets. I bought boxes of candy and snacks. I even got my own stovetop popcorn maker, and I made popcorn. When he got to my apartment, I asked him what he was there to see, and I had several options available and tickets written up for every movie. I had seat numbers taped to the couch, and I made a menu for the concession stand. He picked out what he wanted to eat, and I gave it to him. I grabbed my own snacks, and I went over to the living room. He didn't like the specific candy that I picked out. How was I supposed to know what that licorice is a road trip snack and not a movie snack? I thought I was really clever because I made a YouTube playlist of 3 recent movie trailers and I put that on before the movie. I closed the blinds so that it was dark and I could be settled in. He didn't like the snacks. The popcorn wasn't good enough. He didn't like that it was still bright. This was around 3:30 to 4 p.m. and the sun sets around 5:30 these days. He didn't like the movie trailers so much that I just skipped them. He also didn't like the movie that he picked out to watch. He also wiped his hand off on my 3-month-old couch, and I'm worried that if I try to bring it up, he'll say that I'm just trying to start a fight and I'm always bringing up the past. I put a lot of effort into this, and I'm really just feeling defeated. I'm not sure what to say to him, but I just don't want to let it slide. By the way, I also worked from 6:30 to 2:30. I went to the store, I came home, and I immediately did all of this. The showing was at 3:30, and I put a lot of effort and work into this, and he just hated it. His idea of a date is going to the store and buying groceries. Yes, the store can be fun, but it isn't very heartfelt or planned out. I feel like that I'm the only one who plans and prepares proper dates, and he doesn't like them every time. What should I do? Thank you. Alright, folks. What do you think of this one?
I honestly think that OP probably just needs to break up with him at this point, because that sounds like a very thought out, considerate date, especially given her situation. And for him to be so unconsiderate and so cruel when
Yeah.
she's put all this effort is really a bad sign.
I think is a terrible sign. I think that I had a lot of fun reading that. She just seems like she puts her whole heart and soul into like making this thing just work and just making it feel like a real movie
It
experience.
sounded so good. I was like, oh my goodness, OP, like that just sounds amazing. Like you could do that for me. I would love that.
So it just is such a sweet thing, and it feels like he just doesn't appreciate OP. And the fact that he wiped his hand on your couch too, on top of that, it's like, don't do that. There's napkins for a reason, right?
Well, it sounds like a general lack of respect type of
Yeah.
thing. He doesn't plan any dates. OP plans everything and he complains about it all the time. And so it seems like this is like one piece of a much larger issue.
Yeah. And I think that that's really what it boils down to, is that this isn't a isolated event either. It sounds like it's just that he just doesn't care or respect what OP does and doesn't want to put the same effort into the relationship that he does. I mean, that she does.
Like, even if he was just having a really bad day and it was a one-off, this would still be inappropriate. But like, for her to very clearly go to all this effort and for him to just be like, I don't like this or this or this, like,
Yeah. It was just plain rude. It really was just rude. Amber's advice is break up. Let me know what you folks think. Break up, stay together, or bring him to watch the Titanic, threateningly. I don't know where that was going. Anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright, folks. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Laughing at My Son's Nerdiness in Front of My Friends? And I'm gonna full disclosure this one, that Amber wanted me to read this one for some reason. Why could that be, Amber? Let's find out. My son, we'll call him Brian, will be entering high school next year. Over the past few years, he's moved away from sports, which he was never really good at anyways, and towards a lot of science fiction and fantasy stuff, including video games. All this would be fine with me if he didn't complain about how not many of his peers share his interests. At school, he says that maybe he has 1 or 2 friends in total. He also is made fun of by a lot of other students, boys and girls, who are more athletic, particularly in gym class. Anyways, the other night, I had a few neighbors over for some drinks, and we were talking about Brian. I told them that I was worried about him because he's so weak compared to the other students, and his interests are so narrow. These particular neighbors' children are now in college and seem to have no trouble at all with new friendships. I suggested to them that maybe Brian is autistic, and that explains his lack of athletic ability and interest in anything normal. Suddenly, for whatever reason, I could only imagine Rain Man, where the guy does massive calculations in his head, and it stuck to me as hilarious. I burst out laughing as I imagined my son counting cards in Vegas. Well, a few drinks in at this point, and I didn't notice that Brian was standing behind me, his mouth agape. I told him that I was sorry, but he turned around and quickly walked back to his room. I shrugged it off and kept chatting and laughing with my friends. Later on, Brian came downstairs while I was watching television and told me that I was being rude and disrespectful. I was dumbstruck. Not only had I apologized, but it had been several hours, so I thought things were fine. I told him that the other kids are laughing at him because he makes no effort to fit in and have normal hobbies. I also told him that when I was his age, I went outside and played sports, and it gave me the social skills that I needed that he lacks. He stormed off and barely said anything to me in days. I'm just trying to help him, but he doesn't seem to want any help. It's probably just teenage hormones. Am I the jerk? Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Yeah, I think Opie's being a jerk here, and I think the biggest concern for me is it sounds like the son is being actively bullied at school, and OP's not really doing anything to like talking to the administration or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. He is, it does sound like he's being actively bullied, and it's unfortunate that OP isn't doing anything to help him stand up for himself or help him, overcome these bullies. And it's just not a good situation all around. I feel really bad for this poor kid.
And it just feels like since his hobbies aren't the same as OP's, that he doesn't have any normal hobbies. Like sci-fi and fantasy and video
Yeah,
games are all super popular. And even if they weren't, like it's okay to have obscure and niche hobbies. Like there's nothing wrong
yeah,
with
yeah.
having hobbies that aren't mainstream.
Yeah, I think that's his idea of normal is such a like narrow
Mm-hmm.
definition. Basically, his idea of normal is my son should be playing sports.
Mm-hmm.
And while sports are great, I don't have any problem with sports. There are a lot of other fine, good hobbies as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that middle schoolers are just plain mean, period. It doesn't necessarily mean that your son isn't going to do better or have social skills in the future. It just is middle school's an awkward time for everyone, and it's a time when kids need the most support.
Well, and also I like how Opie's over here speculating his son might be autistic because he can't play sports and he
Yeah.
likes weird things. Like, if you legitimately think that your child may have a neurodevelopmental disability, help them get tested and so
Yeah.
they can get the supports they need. There's a lot more to autism than just being bad at sports and having niche interests, and I say that as an autistic person. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important is that OP needs to be taking the steps to help his child succeed and not be another bully who
mm-hmm.
bullies him.
Well, that's a really good point. Is it does seem like the dad is kind of a bully himself. Like you just need to do sports and like you'll fix yourself. You don't have to be athletic and that's okay.
Yeah. So I just feel really bad for this poor kid. And OP, I really think that you need to figure out what your priorities are because you're really doing a huge disservice to your child.
Yeah, maybe do some family counseling with a therapist.
So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Flauf Bean says, you're the jerk. Super judgmental on your part. Listen to yourself. Normal hobbies, autistic, Rain Man. Come on, you're bullying him. I almost can't believe this post. Alright, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I have a beverage of choice right here, and Amber has a joke.
What goes up and down but doesn't move?
An elevator. Well, oh wait, what goes up and down but doesn't move? Period.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I have an answer.
Okay.
What goes up and down but doesn't move? So you see, I have a cousin, uncle, brother named Larry. All three. And all three of these people, they are essentially the same person, but just duplicated 3 times. And one stands at the top of stairs, and the other stands at the bottom of stairs, and the other one moves up and down the stairs, and so they go up and down, but they don't move because they're essentially the same person.
You're way overthinking
And
this.
so that's what it is. It's a stairs with
I
Larry's.
said, just take away the Larrys. It's stairs.
It's stairs with Larry.
It's stairs. Stairs is the answer.
I know it's stairs is the answer, but it's stairs with Larry.
I can think of another answer, but it's not very YouTube friendly.
An escalator? Why is that not
I
YouTube
wasn't
very
thinking of an
friendly?
escalator.
A tower?
That's also not what I was thinking of.
I don't know. Well, whatever it is, it'll be a mystery to the world. And I have I was gonna say licorice spice, and then I was gonna say Mega Mint, but it's neither of those two because it's Earl Grey. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for watching. Happy Friday! It's really Friday this time, right? Yeah. So, Amber, what is the moral of a story today?
Well, I think this actually ties into a few of them. I think a good moral is if you have family members who are in need and you have an ability to help them, whether that's by offering them to a place to stay or helping them navigate bullies in middle school, then help them, don't tear them down, and don't put them in really uncomfortable situations just to try and teach them a lesson.
Yeah, I think that's a good lesson. That and don't put babies in space. I'm just gonna say it, Don't put babies in space. So thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye.
And this message was brought to you by the Anti-Space Baby Authority. I suggested to them that maybe Brian is autistic, and that explains his lack of I suggested to them that maybe Brian is autistic, and that explains his lack of I suggested to them that maybe Brian is autistic, and that explains his lack of And damn good owl says, I don't even know if I can say that. I mean, it's not really a swear, right?